Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Enterprise AI Unlocked, the Roundtable, the podcast where we explore how AI is reshaping the modern enterprise, one decision, one workflow, and one agent at a time. I'm your host, Paul Brzozowski, co-founder of Olakai-ai, the enterprise AI governance platform that helps organizations measure, govern, and scale their AI deployments. Quick reminder for anyone new, the Roundtable is the monthly one. Once a month, I sit down with people I trust. We pick one big topic in enterprise AI and we cut through the noise together. No scripts, no vendor pitches, just practitioners telling you what we are actually seeing. Back with us is Rob Saltrese, co-founder and chief operating officer of Lyra Labs. Rob runs Lyra Pulse, which measures how AI actually behaves once it is inside the operation, and Lyra Leaders, which works with boards on AI readiness. Rob, good to have you back, sir.
Good to see you. Glad to be here.
And joining us for the first time on the Roundtable, Kate Ashworth Brash. Kate is the HR AI director at IBM. She sits on IBM's AI ethics board as the focal point for HR and talent. She holds a Master of Laws in data privacy focused specifically on AI in HR environments. Kate has personally overseen the deployment of chatbots, digital workers, and automation at global enterprise scale. And she has built the actual ethical frameworks that organizations use to keep bias out and accountability in. If anyone can tell us what governance looks like when it has to survive contact with reality, it is Kate. Welcome.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here and to talk about one of my favourite topics of conversation, which is responsible tech and its governance.
Wonderful. Looking forward to this one, Kate, Rob as well. All right. So here is the topic for today. And it is one that has quietly become the most important conversation in enterprise AI without making a lot of noise. Where do we start? 12 months ago, AI governance was a policy debate. Do we need a framework? Who owns a model risk? What does the EU AI Act mean for us? How do we write the principles? That's what really the past 12 months was all about. The debate is basically over. The principles are written, the frameworks exist, and the interesting question is what comes next. Because the companies that pulled ahead this past year didn't pull ahead because their policy was better, they pulled ahead because they turned governance into an operating model. Named owners, defined decision rights, patterns that actually ship. A measurement layer that tells them whether AI is behaving the way the policy said it would. That is fundamentally different thing than a framework on a step. So the question for this roundtable, Governance 1.0 asks, do we have a framework? Governance 2.0 asks something more practical. Who decides? How do they decide? And how do we know it is working? We are going to talk about what the new operating model actually looks like. Who owns it, how it ships, where it breaks, what the next frontier looks like as agentic AI starts pushing the bar higher. Let's get into it. Okay, let's start with you. You have been inside enterprise AI governance for years, very much look up to your work, and ultimately you sit on an AI ethics board that has been operating long enough to see this evolve. When you look at what governance actually is today versus what it was 12 months ago, what has actually changed? And just as important, what has not changed that probably should have by now?
So I think more people are now talking about governance. It's become a general topic. When AI first came out, everyone was talking about AI and AI functionality. And then people kind of understood that AI needed to be governed and that there were a number of things that needed to be done in order to do that. And I think we've come on the journey of a real understanding and recognition that governance is really at the heart of AI as well. And you need the governance as well as the innovation. Where we're stuck still is that it's an ever-changing environment. And I think some companies get anxious about moving forward and understanding really how to apply that governance rather than being able to embed the governance into everything they're doing and kind of move forward and scale. So I think really where people are getting stuck is, how do I manage this? How do I actually enact the governance model that I need to do?
Love that take, Kate. Would you agree that whether it's governance 1.0, governance 2.0 or 3.0, wherever you are on your journey, that this becomes just a foundation of everything you do, anything you design, whether it's assistive AI, whether agentic? Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, absolutely. Wherever you are on your journey, governance has to be part of what you are doing. So even if you're just starting out, that's fine. You start with the governance. The more advanced you get, the more advanced your governance gets.
So, Rob, you see this from a little bit different angle at Lyra. You guys watch AI behavior inside operations every day, and you also get those readiness checks from the boardroom direct. How does this look like from the top-down perspective? What is the disconnect you see most often between what leadership thinks the governance program is doing and what the data says is actually happening on the ground?
Well, is there any governance for starters is one thing. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that we have seen. And I think, sort of echoing Kate's point, there's two layers to that. You have those that are too much in fear, so don't know where to start and are not putting their best foot forward and are overcomplicating a starting process of having a governance plan and a framework and sort of ethical, responsible AI. But that's equally because most of these businesses, and you and I have discussed this time and time again, there is no AI adoption plan or strategy. It's buying tools and technology and plugging it into systems, which is fatal. So those two sit side by side. The next part to that is, if people do think they have a governance structure, I'd probably say 9, if not 9.5 times out of 10, there is barely one. It's not been communicated to a business. It doesn't sit then alongside anything that has been rolled out, because nothing's been rolled out. It's been shoved in front of people, or they're demanding that people use AI. And then from where we sit, which we see all of that, not only from the board readiness piece and speaking to C-suite and board members and NEDs, you then look at the information we gather from Lyra Pulse, and you can see that virtually no employee would know there was a governance program that sits alongside it. And they're also somewhat in fear, and or they're brave and they can't see what's going on, so they will go and then enact and use their own tools and technology, so you have the shadow AI problem. So really, I think there's a big disconnect and a gap, full stop, that, coming back to Kate's point, is it's almost better if you're at the beginning, start and create something, a careful plan, doesn't need to be big steps, small steps on AI adoption plan, linked to an AI governance strategy. You'll be 70-80% of the way there, which is better than most.
I love the framing, Rob. And Kate, I want to go back to you for this one. If I asked you to describe the operating model of a governance program that is mature in 2026, what are the pieces? Walk me through it, who owns it, and how the decisions being made. Let's just unpack a little bit together.
Yeah, so I think it's kind of quite difficult because there's that starting point that Rob was talking about where people are just sort of starting implementing the model. And then there's obviously the more mature model. So I think I'm probably going to talk a little bit more about the more mature model, Paul. So you should have already defined as a company, and I think a lot of companies don't think about this. Every company has a different risk tolerance. There are certain things they'll accept. There are certain things that they don't. So fundamentally, that's the place to start. What is your risk tolerance? You might be risk averse, or actually you might be working in an industry where you can take more risk. You need to understand that when you start thinking about governance. And you need to understand your sample use cases. So obviously I work in HR, so we understand there are laws regarding employment, and recruitment. It's high risk, obviously designated by the EU AI Act. So those are kind of things that you need to have in place before you even start, right? Before you even start holding the conversation about what you're going to do. And then you need, like in a mature model, you need an embedded process. So there's kind of an intake where you have those initial discussions where you talk about the design. So you haven't even got to the design. You talk about the feasibility, you talk about the impact, you assess the risk, and you look at your impact analysis on the people who are going to be using your AI. And from then, you need to bring in that whole streamlined process that takes you from that initial decision, okay, this is something we'll go with, this is something that we think is going to work. And you have to go through the design and development process. You have to have the rigorous testing in place. But you also need to have all your key stakeholders in place. You need to have those stakeholders involved all the way through the process. So you need your privacy teams, you need your legal teams, you need your business process owners, you need your compliance teams. You need them all to understand where we are in the process and what you need to do throughout that process. So I think to really embed it into everything you do, you have got to think about how you work through that end-to-end process. And one of the things that I talk to people about a lot is they'll get stuck in the process. So they'll be like, we've got a privacy issue, and then they'll spin their wheels, talking about the privacy issue. Whereas that should just kind of feed in through a naturalized process. So I would say if you haven't got an agreed set of principles and you don't have an agreed process and who should be involved, that's where you should start from.
Right. What you describe is indeed a rather comprehensive and complex at this stage. So, Rob, come in here, because I heard you a little bit earlier. You were more on the governance 1.0 assessment of what's really happening. What do you actually see in the wild versus a governance program that looks more mature, that we would hope in 2026, mid-2026 already takes place, something that Kate described for us with great detail?
Yeah, I think you're being generous there. I'd probably describe governance 0.5, in all fairness.
Fair enough.
In reality, is this stuff really going to become commonplace until next year? I doubt it, sadly. The world is always 12, 24 months behind, minimum. And as Kate will attest to, and she and I have spoken about this, even they've moved back the EU AI Act, and what naturally, as human behaviour tells us, people wait until the last minute, if that, or they wait until punishments get dished out. So there'll be many organisations that, rather than doing that risk assessment that Kate said, is they'll be bold and, I say it, brash, and just push forward with things and make mistakes and open themselves up, which we've already has happened in the marketplace. Almost 1.0 is actually saying, well, we're not going to wait for those things to come in. We should be doing things properly, because forget about complying with laws, which you should. If we're talking about medium and global organisations, this should be a minimum. And if you're a board with a fiduciary duty to an organisation, and a CEO has the same thing, as so does the C-suite, to their members, shareholders, employees, to their customer base, to people it impacts, it should be mandatory. Absolutely mandatory that you start here. And as Kate says, get the right people in the room. Secondly, do not think that this all should fall to the CTO or the CIO. AI is not just a tech thing, happens to be a set of technologies, but it is ubiquitous across a business. It's a business set of solutions that should be there to augment every human in your business to improve productivity, outputs for your business goals. So if your business goals are to do X, you plan an adoption process as to where AI would fit in carefully within. You plan in those workflows, you plan the governance at the same time. Who are the stakeholders all the time? Who are the stakeholders in each workflow or department? What does it mean to our staff? What does it mean to our customers? What does it mean to the outside world? And it sounds much more complicated than it actually is. Almost doing things right and being responsible and ethical AI is actually just caring in the first place.
Yeah.
Bring a team together and get going. Put something on paper. I'd imagine there are B Corps out there who've done all this process to become a B Corp that are also making massive mistakes and ploughing forwards rather than thinking carefully. So, yeah, I would say 1.0 stroke 1.5 should be start carefully, start properly. But I'd say it definitely is not commonplace out there at the moment.
This feedback reminded me a little bit, Rob, Kate, about a conversation I had earlier this week with a leader running evaluation for AI governance solution. And I was blessed to be part of that evaluation with them. And it's mid-2026, effectively. And they described their enterprise AI journey as, I think we're a little bit behind. We are a little bit early with what we do. That's why we want to do this right. It's a 30,000 employees business. It's a very large company, both UK, US presence. And what you, Rob, said has immediately connected me with that conversation with that leader, because Yeah. They might be more on a 1.0, 0.5 to 1.0 right now. They have some AI deployed. It's maybe not blocking deployed, but it is just not anywhere where you would like to be given the opportunity AI might bring to you. So that just gave me a reconnection with that 0.5 to 1.0 journey. And obviously, smaller companies, more nimble companies, anything SMB to mid-market, more private equity-based businesses, I guess, might be more ahead towards that 2.0. So let's talk a little bit more about once you have your 0.5 or 1.0, 2.0 in place, I think that another element that might be missing possibly is this measurement and proof. And Rob, I'll stick with you for a second. Assuming that governance operating model is 0.5, 1.0, 1.5, 2.0, whatever that might be, you it only is going to be as good as your ability to see what your AI is actually doing. That's what I believe is the foundation as well. So my question for you is, at any stage, your customer, how they actually run that AI governance program. Is it automated? Is it manual? Do you see the same teams currently running that initiative? How does this look like from your perspective?
Again, in all honesty, there are a few that do the right thing and have managed this as best they can, right? And listen, it's better than perfect because no one's ever going to be perfect. And you're going to constantly need to evolve because new risks and threats and things will pop up, and so will rules. I don't think most people have. And even if they've got a governance layer, there's very few ways out there currently that exist, be it a technology platform or a solution, in order to measure. And again, it's something that you and I are hugely passionate about because we know it needs to be done. And if you are a business of 30,000 staff, how on earth do you really know what the 30,000 staff are doing and how are they feeling? And are they playing around with their own tech and exposing things that you don't necessarily know about? So I would say there isn't much there. I think there's probably some businesses who've got a few teams that will go and look, but I think it will probably be more human-led. It will be anecdotal, unfortunately, which isn't the best data set, but again, it's something rather than nothing. You might have the odd business that has got a few agents checking things. If they're smart enough to have built a red team, a security team that evaluates it. But again, that's not even scratching 1%. It's probably 0.01 if we're being brutally honest. The point is that there are ways, there are means, there are things you can do to start putting that right, show that you care, and understand how your staff feel and what are they doing, really, what's really going on in an organization, and just monitoring the risks and gaps. And that could be from shadow AI through to stuff that's been impacting with your customers, through to your presence online, whatever it may be. That's the bit that you have to be kind of super aware of, but it needs to be checked 24/7, quite frankly, which is not easy to do, but there's things you can do to mitigate it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of new vendors in the space, some established ones building extensions for the customers. So you might already have an existing relationship and then start adopting those principles of measurement and having 24/7 access to it for at least compliance purposes. Kate, with you, I actually want to lean a little bit more into that perhaps more advanced model, what you see. And I want you to react actually to a specific question. From a governance and compliance lens, what data do you actually need to be confident your program is doing what it says it is? What I really mean by this, Kate, I'm keen to see where does measurement run into the limits of what you can or should be measuring. Give us a little bit more of a practical playbook. What does this look like, especially when AI touches sensitive decision areas? You mentioned a little bit more about that. I'd love to go back to that element because I think this measurement and then what data and a bit of a playbook for the audience would be great to hear from you.
I think there's kind of 3 areas that you should think of when you're thinking about metrics and measurements. You obviously need a set of metrics and measurements, but I think you need to look at system data. I think you need to look at data controls. And I think then you need to look at kind of the people. So system data, people. And I think you need to understand how your system's operating. So you need the metrics in terms of, are you getting hallucinations? How's it working? How many tokens you're using? It's kind of like basic system controls. And then you need kind of the data controls, so the security ones, so the ones you were just talking in terms of privacy. So access data? What data are you using? Are you using sensitive personal information? And then I think the people element, and that can be automated to some extent, but I think also it's to do with policies. What's your policy? What's your policy on citizen building? Do you have the controls in place? Are people using AI? Are they using sensitive data in it? You need to have policies that are clearly understood and communicated to the teams. One of the things that I would say sort of moving into the future, these need to be real time. It's no good finding out 3 months later that you've had some kind of exposure or something's not been working for the last 3 months. So you're looking at real time data. And clearly, as much as you can automate is the best solution. But as Rob says, at the moment, as things build up, you're probably looking at a mixture of automated system controls and manual intervention as well.
Kate, in your experience when you debate AI governance, are you hearing, in my opinion, it's a little bit off when people think AI governance is equal AI compliance. I think compliance is a huge piece of it, but what do you see people thinking AI governance is? I guess let's just put it plainly like that.
Yeah. So AI ethics is the theory. AI responsible technology is kind of wider when you think about governance. So then there's the kind of AI governance, which is how do you govern AI itself? So you're more thinking about your operability and how you set the AI up. Then you've got your full governance stack. And your full governance stack goes from your audit trails and your privacy policies and your documentation and your architecture and things like that. So I think sometimes people get sort of blinkered in terms of thinking of this in a kind of with a very narrow lens. And I think when you think about AI governance, it sits as part of the whole governance stack. It's just one element. And when you're assessing new technology and being responsible in your use of tech, you need to think about the whole governance stack.
And I think this is a great segue, guys, to something ahead of us. I don't know if we are going to call it now governance 2.5 or 3.0, but so far we mostly focused on all the operations and the AI interactions that our workforce typically engages with. And obviously, 2026, a lot of agentic experimentation is already behind us. Now we are seeking more speed. We're actually looking to achieve true productivity impact versus human baselines. That brings a lot more sensitivity, exposure to data along the way. So I actually want to engage both of you on the agentic AI, because this is seriously moving from concept to a deployment now. Again, I would assess that true enterprise AI, 3-5% of the market is in it, but this will change. Maybe 2027 will be the true year of agentic. But that changes the governance question, because now you're not governing a model output only or interactions. And I hope you already have your compliance sets built. That's, I think, what you have to have regardless. But if you're governing a sequence of decisions and actions that are autonomous, I think this completely changes the game. So Kate, start us off. What does the operating model need to add or change to govern agentic systems responsibly, building on 1.0, 2.0, 2.5, whatever that governance might be coded as?
So the governance foundation has got to be strong before you start building AI agents. And then building on that foundation, you've obviously got your singular agents that you're working on governance, and you have to literally take that view. Here's my singular agent. Here's what it can do. Have I governed that properly? Then you need to build in, as you stack your AI agents and their interactions together, you need to build in, okay, so now I've got these agents that are working together and doing things simultaneously. What does that look like? What's the impact? How do I know that that's okay? When you're talking about agentic AI, we are talking you've got to be able to govern real time to understand how your agents are working to make sure that there's nothing nefarious going on. So I think kind of like it's almost like those 3 steps. You've got to have the foundation, you have the singular AI agent, and then you have what's my impact when I start to bring in multi-agents.
And I guess this just reminds me about the discussion here at AI Fund. We had recently an ecosystem all hands meeting. And agentic AI is just another building block in enterprise AI. That's how I see this. And analogy here is that you've got your governance already built, you have the systems, the process, hopefully everything is working fine. Now, just to make it more complicated, you're adding another building block on top of it, and it is just a continuation of the ground foundation work you have. But Rob, maybe you can close this off for us. From the measurement and behavior side, would you say that there is much of difference about governing on agentic system versus a single model? What's your take on that, sir?
Well, I think it's a little bit difficult in some respects, is that when you are understanding how users are working, you're not really thinking of how the agents are performing per se, right? So I fully agree with Kate. But actually, this is where I think something around human in the loop becomes more important, for one thing. 2 stages. One, in setting up the agents very carefully that link to your compliance, your structure. What are you doing within these processes and workflows? Like, is there risk? What is the risk in between this workflow? If it's incredibly not so much of a problem, but you need to assess that as you're going along, then you need human in the loop. I think when you get to multi-agentic models and solutions which are coming, you probably need a very carefully designed orchestration layer that can oversee. And I go back to my red team comment, right? There will be agents that are designed to protect and look after your sphere. If your business, there's a risk profile, you need agents that sit around the edge. So it's almost like a perimeter fencing. It will almost be like the military police. There are military police people that manage what the military do, and they have this all around the world, and rightly so. But you will need that. There's a lady that I know is very experienced in this space, got multiple PhDs in this. I'm not joking. She talks around the world. She fully believes in that, a human in the loop piece, but having a secure red team agentic function that is totally focused on securing, protecting, and everything else, because they are powerful, they are very smart. And if you set it up in that way, and it's not doing the actions of the role, it's going, how do I check for gaps, weaknesses, and issues? And bearing in mind these things learn, they become more and more powerful. So that plus a human, I think, is an incredibly strong combination that I don't think really for the moment, until we see things in the future, you can do much more. So again, if things happen and something was exposed, if people went, well, I did do absolutely everything. Humans and nature and life and laws are going to go, okay, well, fine. It's the people that don't. And it's because they don't care or they've not bothered. They're the ones that are going to be, I guess, kind of at risk.
Yeah, and I absolutely fully agree with Robin. I love that analogy of the military police, the AI agent police. But I want to come back to that human in the loop that Rob was talking about. And obviously, again, because I work in HR, human in the loop is a requirement by law. I think that as you start to stack the AI agents together, there's a big risk. And as Rob says, you need that fundamental layer to make sure that you have that. So when you're thinking about your agents, you have to design your process and your agents literally understanding what are they doing, what do they do together, and does that reduce that element of human in the loop. And when we talk about human in the loop, you have to talk about meaningful human in the loop, right? Not just AI told me to do this, so that's what I did, right? That's not meaningful human in the loop.
I like that. And what actually, I'm going to add something to this conversation. Actually, 2 quick thoughts just came to me as I heard both of you. Number one, the topic we didn't actually talk about. I actually see, Kate, many people confusing AI security with AI governance on top. And that brings a question, who actually owns it? Who is the leader of AI governance?
Interesting, because I think it kind of refers back to something else that Rob mentioned earlier. And that is that you shouldn't be thinking of this as a technical solution. This is a process solution. And in my view, security is just part of that governance stack, right? It's that whole governance stack that I was referring to. Security sits in that governance stack. It's part of it. It's a small part of it. So when you think about the overall process, that's what you've got to think of. And for me, that's where the ownership lies. The ownership lies with the person who is transforming their process with AI. All of those other people are key stakeholders, but the owner has got to be the person who owns the process, because you've got to understand it's the first question you ask. What is the problem I'm trying to solve, right? Sits with the process.
Love that. And super quick on the human in the loop, closer from me. It's AI governance system that will flag risks along the way, whatever the interaction is, whether it's a human-led interaction with a chatbot, whether that's agentic, it's something that will tell them that in the ecosystem, there might be a violation of a policy, there might be a sensitive prompt, there might be PII, PHI, secret of code exposure in the prompts, and they have to inspect. Right now, an actual human takes over and views the process, what happened, and is this actually a violation or not, and then they get the tools. So a good example, I think, what is a very practical human in the loop example in the governance space. And this brings me to the lightning round. So, Rob, you know what a lightning round is. Kate, more for you. It is really one bold prediction or one sharp piece of advice about where this is going. We try to give our 30 seconds, we go for 90, but no hedging. Kate, you are up.
Okay, so I'm going for sharp advice, right? We are living in a geopolitical changing situation. Laws are changing. There is a basic standard of legal requirements, but there is more. And that is the responsible and ethical side of what you are doing. You need to be considering that before you even start developing any AI. You can't cut corners. You cannot be flippant. You have got to make sure that you are understanding what you are unleashing with your AI.
Brilliant. Love it. Rob?
Two things. Prediction is that a lot of this really won't kick in, unfortunately, till 2027 and beyond, as much as I would love it to, because that's just the pace we're going at. And put your stake in the ground. Be a company that has values and ethics and morals. Because if you look at since the history of time, people who go out and do the right thing in the right way and push forward in that manner always are the ones that come out the best and the most successful. So if you, as a board or a CEO of a business, are looking to do this, start right, do it properly, because you'll take people on the journey. In fact, you'll become an employer of choice that utilizes AI within your business, and that can only be good for your organization, full stop.
And mine? I actually will finish the thought I started, and I just wanted to give myself an opportunity to elaborate. It's more of a prediction, guys. And the prediction is that I hope that in the future, we will live in the days where an agentic AI governance process will govern AI processes effectively. Still with human in the loop approach, but at speed with the right foundation. And I believe that people have to work hard to document how they do it, build those beautiful processes and systems, so an automation can help us out 60, 70, 80% in the future. So all the interactions, the volume of interaction with AI is growing, whether it's AI coding agents, whether it's a chatbot, whether it's an autonomous agentic workflow. I hope that we as human will get more automation that will help us to stay compliant and stay aligned with the expectations. So that's my prediction. Is it 2027, 2028? I don't know, but I hope we will live in the days where our life will be easier from the perspective, but I also realize that we have to put the work in right now for ourselves. All right, that is a wrap on episode 3 of the Roundtable. And here is what I'm taking away. We are all at different stages of AI governance. Is it 0.5? Is it 1.0? Is it 2.0? We all have our own journey. No need to compare yourself to anything. Kate, thanks for the amazing reminder about building. And AI governance is not a piece of software. It's a system. It's a process. It's people around it. And it is an actual outcome. Thank you for that. And then Rob, thank you also for reminding us that not everyone is AI Governance 2.0 in the end of May 2026. And it's very true. It's also encouraging. And whatever we guys do, let's do the best work we do. Next month on the Roundtable, we will tackle the next topic, chosen life based on energy. If you got value from this, follow Enterprise AI Unlocked wherever you get your podcasts and tell us which topics you want us to take on next. I'm Brzozowski, co-founder of Olakai-ai. Kate, Rob, thank you for doing this. Cheers, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.